Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. So I'll just take a moment here, reintroduce myself, and wait for a couple people to come on. So if you haven't met me yet, I am Nurse Maureen. You might have met in my Facebook group, the Thriving Nursing Students Facebook group. So hi, guys. You might have read my book, Nursing School Thrive Guide, or listened to my podcast, the Straight A Nursing Podcast. So however you found your way here, I'm so happy that you're here because I know a lot of you are starting nursing school soon and maybe looking at how you can take the success you've had in your prerequisites and transfer that over into nursing school because it's completely different. And I'm going to help you figure out some of the pitfalls that you could have so that you can develop a plan to avoid them, okay? That's the first step in any plan, right? Know where you could stumble so that you can really have your eye out on those spots so that you don't stumble over them. And good morning to everyone who is saying good morning, hi. Okay, so I've identified about 5 key ways that nursing students tend to struggle, you guys. And again, this is a generalization. It doesn't mean that you won't have your own specific struggles, but it's what I see over and over and over again, okay? So if you recognize yourself in any of these from your prerequisite classes, what I have to say to that is this is not the time to ignore them and hope they go away. They're going to most likely be magnified in nursing school, and I don't want that for you. I want you guys to all succeed tremendously in nursing school, okay? So with that said, let's talk about the 5 most common ways that nursing students tend to struggle, okay? And the good news is these are all things you can overcome, okay? Absolutely not insurmountable at all. So the very first thing, you guys, and this is probably, if I had to pick one thing that would make students struggle in nursing school, then this would be the one thing. And that is simply being unorganized. Like I could take an average student. I don't think any nursing students are average students, but you know what I mean? Like someone who doesn't maybe get all A's or even all B's. Maybe they're just scooting along getting C's in their prereqs, and that's totally fine. I could take that student and get them to succeed in nursing school simply by teaching them how to be organized. It is that important, okay? So some of the reasons for the reason, organization is so important is one of them is there's just a mountain of paperwork, tasks to do, a lot just firing at you from every direction. There's clinicals, which are, it's a whole other beast that you have to navigate. When I took my pharmacology class, on top of the 5 other classes that I had, every week there was a pre-quiz, there was a post-quiz, there was a discussion board post, and there was, going to lecture and watching the lecture or attending it in person. And it was just a lot for that one class. That was a lot to juggle. There were weeks when I would have to take 15 quizzes online for all my classes, and doing my studying and working on my projects and doing my care plans and, having a life. So it's just a lot to juggle. So the mountains of paperwork is a whole other thing. You've got your PowerPoint slides from your instructor. You've got your own notes. You've got your reference sheets, random things you found on the internet. All of that, forms, documentations, your health clearances, all of that is just a mountain of stuff. So being unorganized can really put you in a tough spot. Once you are in the thick of school and it's really busy, and those of you that have gone through nursing school or first semester can give me a high five on this one. Once you're in it, there's no time to go back and develop a system. You're just in it. You're just holding on for the ride. So my advice is get yourself together and organized and systems developed before classes begin. So one of the things that you can do, like the LMS, the learning management system that your school uses, may or may not be set up very well. Learning how to navigate that before classes start is really important. So what I would suggest you do, one of the things that I would suggest you do is as soon as you get access to the learning management system, as soon as you have a university or a college login, get on there and navigate around. You may not have access to your classes yet, but there should be some stuff, school, university specific information that you can go and look at. Learn how to access the library. Learn how to get to the database searches and do all of that stuff. So learn that LMS and your school's website before classes start. And then get systems in place for handling your paperwork, handling your digital files, handling how you're going to organize your notes and all of that. And I talk about all of this in my course, which I'm going to share with you guys for those of you that are interested in Crucial Concepts Bootcamp, and maybe that's why you're here because it went on sale today. I go through all of that in my course, and we even do a live workshop together where we just get all of our stuff organized together. It's super fun. What I would say about being unorganized, you guys, is it creates stress. And when you are stressed, you can't learn. You cannot learn. One of the things that you will learn probably first semester is this whole concept of learning and teaching, because nurses are teachers. We teach people constantly. And the hallmark thing that you will learn about teaching and learning is that you cannot teach a patient when they are stressed. This is a great example of an exam question. You've got a patient who is having an exacerbation of their COPD. And one of the options will be teach them how to do pursed lip breathing, which is a breathing technique for patients with COPD. That's never the right answer. And the rationale is always, this patient is not ready to learn because they are stressed. And the same thing applies to you guys. So being organized, knowing where all of your paperwork, knowing where things are, knowing how to access things, knowing how to navigate the LMS, that pulls down your stress level and helps you get ready to learn. Okay, so that's the first one, being unorganized. If you guys do nothing else, tackle that before nursing school starts. I promise, it will pay itself back to you. Okay, the number 2 way that nursing students struggle, and this dovetails with the organization thing, is time management, not having solid time management skills. And the reason for this is there's a lot going on, just like when I was talking about with my pharmacology class that had all those quizzes and discussion board posts and lectures, and on top of that, I had a million other things to do. You have to be able to prioritize what's most important, manage your time well, look at what you have to do coming up in your schedule. And if you've never been a planner person and you've just kind of relied on, looking in the computer to see what you need to do that day or that week, y'all need to start looking at doing more planning, okay? And I'm not saying you need to go buy a planner. I do have planners for nursing students. I'm not saying you need to go buy a planner. You can use a, Google Calendar. You could do whatever, but you just have to use it and do it, okay? So looking at what you have to do coming up this week and really being able to ascribe time to those tasks. Manage your time. Otherwise, it's Thursday night and you've got a paper due tomorrow and you haven't been able to work on it yet because of time management. So one of the things that students do where they struggle with time management is they spend a lot of time on things that don't matter. Or they do things that waste time. You guys have probably maybe heard me talk about study groups before, and why most of the time they are just huge time wasters. I do have a podcast episode where I talk about how to make a study group effective, and I can link to that if you're interested, because I do think it's valuable to, get with 1 or 2 other students and work on things together, teach each other things, all of that. So I've got some guidelines for how to make a study group effective. Otherwise, huge waste of time. My first semester of nursing school, I had some friends going into it because I'm very shy. I know you guys might not believe that, but I'm very shy. And I knew that if I went into nursing school my first day and didn't know anybody, that I was just going to probably be the quiet, shy one the whole time. And I knew I needed to have a support system in place and just people to count on and rely on and, celebrate and laugh with and gripe with. So I forget where I did it. I think it was in that All Nurses website. I put up a post. Hey, anybody starting school at, CSUS this semester? Love to get together before classes start. So we got together before classes started, met, and I had like a group of like 7 or 8 friends before class started. It was great. What I quickly found, though, was that when this group of 7 or 8 people wanted to get together, and we were encouraged to do our some of our class quizzes together, because then you could see more of the quiz bank and study more. So the professors were fine with us doing that. So we got together, and there were like 8 of us, and each person would sit down and take their quiz and go through it with everybody else, kind of looking at the questions with them and talking them out. And it took about half an hour for one person to do a quiz. And I was like, I do not have time to sit here for 3 hours or 4 hours and do quizzes. So that's just an example of how I decided what I needed to prioritize. So I think I did my quizzes maybe with one other person after that, or just on my own. But I got my quizzes done in 30 minutes and I could move on with my life. So don't waste time on things that don't matter. If you've got a discussion board post due and you have to cite one reference, don't cite 3 or 4. Like, you don't have to go all turbo on everything, okay? So really pay attention to what you need to do, and then manage your time by getting it done and moving on. And then a lot of students will be up in the middle of the night studying, and I know there are a lot of you, maybe a lot, maybe a handful, I'm not really sure, because this is so outside of my realm of understanding, people that do thrive in the middle of the night, and that's their go time, and that's when they study effectively. If that's you and you can sleep in the next day and get your 8 hours or 7 hours, fabulous. But if you still have to be somewhere and effective at 6 a.m. in the morning, like for clinical, I do not recommend being up at 3 a.m. and working on your care plans or studying. So getting good time management means you can get to bed by 11 o'clock p.m. If you're up studying in the middle of the night and that's not your go time, that's not effective studying. That time is essentially been completely wasted. So time management is absolutely key. So the next thing, the third thing that students really struggle with, and I have friends, I just finished a graduate program in nursing education. I have friends who are nurse educators, and we talk a lot about how are the students struggling, what do they need help with, because my course, Crucial Concepts Bootcamp, I've created to really meet that need of what nursing instructors and students say they need extra support with coming into nursing school. So one of the things that I talk about with them is this need for students to, they struggle with critical thinking. So critical thinking often isn't even taught until you get into the nursing school program, and students just it's a bit of a roadblock for students because it's different than what you did in, say, microbiology or chemistry or what have you. It's bridging the gap between what you learn in your books, what you learn in your lectures, to applying the knowledge to a scenario, to a situation. So in nursing school, I had a lot of exams, and all but one was application knowledge, critical thinking, where it's like, here's a patient, he's got XYZ, here's his situation, what are you going to do about it? That's what nursing school questions are like. Here's a situation, what are you going to do about it? Because that's what the job is. That's what nurses do. We walk into situations and we look for problems. We fix them. We look for potential things that could go wrong, and we try to avoid them. That's it. That's the job in a nutshell, and that's what your exams are like. You're going to be presented with scenarios and be expected to know what to do. It's application knowledge. It's critical thinking. So with that, the one test I had that was not like that was my health assessment class, and that was basically, what is bradycardia? What is tachycardia? What is a normal blood pressure? It was like that. It was very straightforward. Easiest exam I ever took in nursing school. It was like a breath of fresh air. But for the most part, it's this application scenario-based exams. So, and this is also in clinical as well. You'll be presented with a situation. And I'm not saying a nursing student's expected to know what to do all the time in clinical, but you will be expected, maybe in post-conference with your instructor, to reason it out and talk through situations. So students just have a little bit of a struggle with critical thinking, and I do address that in my course as well. So I don't want to leave you guys hanging on that. The fourth thing, and this is a big one, is not studying effectively. Oh my gosh, you guys, right now with finals happening, probably every 10th post in my Facebook group of about 14,000 students is about, I don't know how to study for my final. How do I study for a cumulative exam? And then at the beginning of the semester, in a few weeks, we'll be seeing a lot of, oh my gosh, how do I study for this? How do I study for that? So what I'm going to say is, with that, you know, in nursing school, yes, there is a ton to learn. You guys will be maybe a little overwhelmed with it at first. It's okay. It's a lot. And the reason it's a lot is because you are making the biggest transformation of your life, okay? You're going from, you know, a normal person to a nurse. That's huge. That's a huge transformation. So there's a lot to learn. And, you know, nursing school programs are short, right? They shortened them right around the time when I started school. They had, I think, maybe a semester or a year before, it had been 5 semesters, and then they condensed it down to 4. And so the reason for that is, you know, there's always this nursing shortage. They just need to get the students out there as quickly as they can, but they still need you to know the same amount of information. So programs are really, really intense, and there's a ton of information to learn. What students have trouble with when they're not studying effectively, a lot of times what I've seen with these students is that they're trying to memorize things. You know, they're relying heavily on mnemonics and just trying to memorize. They are focusing on memorization versus understanding. So if you guys find, you know, when you're in nursing school that you're relying heavily on mnemonic devices, I want you to whoa yourself, you know, put the brakes on a little bit and say, am I really understanding, or am I simply trying to memorize? So if you are memorizing only, guess what? You're not going to be able to apply knowledge on an application-based exam, which has those Nclex style questions. So the other thing that students need to do is take a learning style assessment quiz, you guys. And I will link to one that I have found to be absolutely fantastic. It really asks some thought-provoking questions for you to really zero in on, am I an auditory learner? Am I a visual learner? Do I learn by hearing? Do I learn by doing? So if you're like me, then you're pretty even across the board with that, and I feel really lucky in that way. I can switch up my studying. For some things, I might draw it out. I might make tables. I might listen to things. So find out what kind of learner you are and put most of your effort into learning in that way, but don't ignore the other modalities either. Sometimes, you know, you can only draw so much, right? You can only read so much. It's sometimes really helpful to do another style, which is why my podcast has been so great. You guys, I started my podcast basically because when I was in, what class was I taking? Organic chemistry. And guess what? I did not do so great on my first exam. And it was the first time I had not gotten an A on an exam in, you know, my whole prereqs to nursing school journey. It was the last class I had to take before school started. I got like an 83%, and I know I'm ridiculous, but I was super hyper focused on it because I was applying to a highly competitive program. And if I didn't have a 4.0, I basically didn't have a chance of getting in. So I was super stressed about this organic chemistry class. And so for that first exam, I totally flubbed how I studied. I only focused on doing the chemical, you know, the diagrams. Love doing those. I wish I still remembered how to do them because I thought they were super fun. But that's essentially all I did to study for the first exam. Guess what? That was a small part of the test. I hadn't gone in and, sorry, that was my husband calling. I thought my phone was on Do Not Disturb. Sorry, guys. So I struggled with that first exam, and then I started recording my chemistry notes, my chemistry concepts, and going for walks and listening to myself talk through them. And that is basically what started me thinking about, oh, you know, someday I could help other students learn in this way as well. That's how the podcast started, you guys. So anyway, just a little backstory there. So not studying effectively is a really big problem for students. And I do also go through in my course, you know, tips on how to study the most effectively, how to not waste time studying, and how to zero in on what you need to know. So there's that. And then the fifth thing, you guys, and I find that this is pretty universal, a lot of students struggle with this, is test anxiety. And test anxiety is such a bummer because you guys are all so smart, and you can do poorly on an exam, not because you don't know the material, not because you didn't study your tail off, but because the test itself has you in that anxious mode. And again, remember the example we talked about earlier with the patient with COPD. Like, you're not going to teach her how to do something new when she's stressed because she can't learn. It's also not a great time to retrieve information and perform, because a test is a performance, right? So if you can get the anxiety, you want to have a little bit so that you're hyper aware, but not so much that you are panicking and not able to retrieve information. I used to go into my exams thinking about, all the sulci in your brain, and I would think, it's in there. What I need to know, it's in there. And if I relax, the doors open and the information will come out. So I would just sit down at the exam, and we would all go into like an exam room with all the computers, and there's, proctors walking around making sure you're not cheating. So I would sit down and I would log in and make sure I could log in, and then not look at any of the questions. And I could hear all my classmates, they're typing away, they're starting to answer questions. I would close my eyes, take 3 very slow, very long, deep breaths, because I was, way into yoga for a long time there, and then start my exam. So because I knew if I got into that anxious mode, I wasn't going to be able to relax, and the information wouldn't flow out of the sulci in my brain. I would just picture it coming out. So one of the ways to attack test anxiety, of course, is being prepared. If you feel confident with the material walking in, then your anxiety is going to be a lot less. And I have a whole podcast episode that I did, you guys, on test anxiety. I will link to that because I want you to have these tools in your toolbox for when you go in to take those exams. So one of the first things is that preparedness. It's also understanding how nursing exams work. They're weird, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. They're really weird. They're modeled after the Nclex, which is your licensing exam, as you all know, and they're all going to be scenario-based. Here's a situation. Here's 4 choices. What are you going to do? And I'm telling you, most of the time, those 4 choices, they all look pretty good, or they all look really bad. You have to be able to do that critical thinking and understand what the question is getting at, and have that core background knowledge to pick the best answer. So maybe all 4 are pretty right, but one is more right. That's the one that you choose. So they're weird. And testing in this way, it's a different modality. It makes students really anxious. So in my course, I also go over, here's how we kind of decipher Nclex style questions. And then, your test day strategy. I talk about that in the podcast episode as well. A lot of things that you can do before the exam is what sets you up for success once you're sitting in that exam. So again, the 5 ways nursing students struggle that I can help you guys with is being unorganized, having poor time management, not bridging that gap over into critical thinking, not studying effectively, and having really severe test anxiety. So those are the things I want you to think back to your prereqs, especially those tougher classes like anatomy, physiology, chemistry, micro. Did you have any of these issues? And if you did, even a little bit, and be really honest with yourself, they are likely to be exacerbated in nursing school because it's just intense. It's just really intense. So I don't want that for you guys. I want you to be confident. I want you to have less stress. I want you to feel prepared and on top of the game. So I saw a bunch of comments coming in. Does anybody have any specific questions about those things or about anything in general? I'm happy to address that. Tomorrow's topic is, I believe, let me just look because I've got a few different things set up for you guys. Oh, tomorrow's a big one. Tomorrow's might take a little bit longer to get through. I want to talk about the personality traits of successful students. So I've kind of identified, after years of mentoring students, the types of things that helps students be successful. And I'm hopeful that you can identify in yourself some of those things, because I think that's going to give you some confidence heading in to nursing school. So Terry, the podcast for test anxiety, I will link to it. I don't remember the episode number off the top of my head, but my podcast is called Straight A Nursing. If you haven't been listening to it yet, go check it out. You can download it and get access to it anywhere that you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, all of those. You can just go find it. And then I'll put the episode number so that you can find it easily. I want to say it's like in the 90s, episode 90 something. We've got like 130 some episodes now. So it takes a little bit, to find it. So I'll put the number down for you. Priscilla, you can find that podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Apple Podcasts, all these are free podcast players that you could just download, or you can go to my website and listen to it on my website. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, all of those. So, Tamara, tomorrow's is at 4 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Pacific. And if you can't make it, it will be archived, and I'll put it you'll be able to access it here on the Straight A Nursing page. I'll probably also throw it over into the Thriving Nursing Students page as well if you're in my group. And if you guys aren't in my group and you're looking for a group of supportive nursing students, they're awesome. It's called Thriving Nursing Students. Come check it out. It's great. You guys are just amazing over there. Okay, so I will wait a minute, because usually what happens is I will sign off and then I'll get a question right when I do. But if that does happen, I can just respond in the comments to you as well. So I know I talked a lot about my course, Crucial Concepts Boot Camp. So if you guys are starting nursing school and you're interested in that, it's on sale. It just went on sale this morning. So there's a coupon code, and I will link to all of that as well. You save $8. It's already priced super, reasonably for nursing students. Save $8, and you get a free electrolytes study guide that, earlier, remember when I was talking about students just memorizing things, what I see with electrolytes, and I just want to shout this from the rooftops because it comes up so much, is students laser focus on memorizing the lab values and don't so much work on understanding the concepts behind why do we care what the potassium level is. And then when they get into their exams, they're like, holy cow, I don't understand electrolytes. So this electrolytes study guide helps you understand what the roles are of the electrolytes in the body, like the key ones. Why do we care so much about potassium? What happens when it's too low? What are we going to do about it? What are we going to monitor for? What about if it's too high? What are we going to monitor for? What are we going to do about it? Because that's what nurses do. We have problems that are presented in front of us, and we fix them. That's the entire job, you guys. Brooke says, I'm finishing my first semester and I just signed up. Yay, Brooke, I'm so excited. Anything to help me understand the info. You know what, Brooke, it cuts off after a certain point. And even if I click see more, it doesn't. Oh yeah, it does. Anything to help me understand the information a little better. I also got the Beyond Boot Camp. Oh, I'm so excited. So, and that was Brooke, right? I don't want to get your name wrong, Brooke. Okay, so yes, Crucial is going to help you so much. I cannot wait to hear what you think about it. Go in there, snoop around today, and then will you email me later today and let me know what you think? My email address is in there, and I love hearing from you guys. And then Beyond Boot Camp, if anyone's asking, because I didn't really mention that earlier, Beyond Boot Camp is extra lessons. So Crucial Concepts teaches you foundation concepts. It goes into all those things that your instructors wish you knew before you even started nursing school. Teaches you that stuff. It goes into some A&P review. It goes into how to study, medical abbreviations, terms, how to talk like a nurse, how to give report, how to understand report, how to approach care plans, how to do dosage calculations, how to tackle Nclex style exams, how to organize your life and your paperwork and your systems for school. So that's what that is. And then Beyond Boot Camp actually goes into nursing school topics. So the information is all on the website there. Beyond Boot Camp is kind of a course in the making. So every month I'll be putting up more content, and you guys don't get charged extra. You always have access to it. So you have the option when you enroll for Crucial to upgrade and get beyond boot camp. So there's that. Okay, so hi Katie, hello from Canada. I'm so glad you love the podcast. I'm so happy. Oh great, Rigoberto, I'm so glad you like Beyond Boot Camp. Did you like how I rolled my R's there? I take every opportunity to do that because I feel like I'm really good at it. Okay, Jessica's excited to poke around on the site. Okay, good. Tamara, I'm so glad you liked Crucial Concepts. That's awesome. Worth every penny. That's great. I love hearing that. And Tamara, okay, so I don't know if you went to the Get Organized workshop last time, but I have a live workshop for students in Crucial Concepts, and I'm making it even better. So I hope you can come to this next one that we're doing. I think the dates are the 9th and the 18th of January. So hopefully one of those dates fits. If you can't make it, don't worry. I'm going to have all of that recorded in the bootcamp for you. So you'll be able to do it kind of at your own. But I like the live workshop because it's fun and we get to hang out together. Basima, I do review a lot of A&P stuff in the podcast, in the bootcamp. Any recommendations on what to review from microbiology? Just got accepted. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. Microbiology, I don't really feel like I needed to use a lot of that information. It's helpful when you're looking at antibiotics and understanding, antibiotics, antifungals, antivirals, those kinds of things. There's infection control, but anything super specific from microbiology, I don't know. I thought it was a really interesting class, but I don't rely on it as a prerequisite the way I rely on anatomy and physiology. Okay, so there's my little truth bomb about that. Ashley, hi. Is there stuff for farm? So Ashley, what I'm doing, I'm making a whole standalone course for pharmacology because that is just a giant topic. There is some information about things to review, like foundation concepts for pharmacology are the autonomic nervous system, and we go over that. RAS, the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, we go over that. All the factors that go into play with maintaining hemodynamics, we go into that. We go into, beta blockers, alpha blockers, all of that. So the Crucial Concepts is the foundation for the other things. So it does go into the things that will help you be successful in farm. I actually have a podcast episode coming up. I forget the date, in a few weeks, on how to prepare ahead of time for pharmacology, what to review for that. So keep an eye on that. If you are not yet subscribed to the podcast, go and subscribe to it so that you just automatically get the episodes. They go live every Thursday. So I'll be talking about here's what to review before pharmacology. It's very specific on those types of things. So I hope that helps, okay? April asks about prepping for Nclex. April, I would go, honestly, a lot of students have said that my podcast has helped them with their Nclex. So take your Nclex practice exams. It sounds like you failed it and you're frustrated, and I can only imagine how frustrating that is. You're definitely not alone, okay? A lot of amazing nurses had to take their Nclex more than once. It's a really, really weird test. So, identify the topics that you struggle with and then go find podcast episodes about it, because what I do with my podcast episodes is I zero in on, the key information. There's not a lot of fluff. So try that, and then you can send me an email, and I can make sure you have links to my website and all of that. There's so much information on there that you can just go and access for free. Okay, April? So I'm going to think positive thoughts for you as you prepare for your Nclex to retake that, okay? As you're studying, you're probably already doing this, but I want to say this for the students that are listening. As you're studying for your exams and your Nclex exam, when you do those practice questions and even if you get the answer right and you felt super confident about it and you're like, oh, that was easy, I want you to go and look at the rationales. Read, why was that answer correct? You probably will learn something. Read why the wrong answers were wrong. That is where the money is. That is where you're really going to learn a ton. So read those rationales, even for the no-brainer ones that you got right, okay? So that's a great way to study. April, please email me. I'll make sure you have the links for those things so that you can feel more confident going into your next exam. I wish you the very best of luck. Ashley has midterms due by the 15th. Okay, so yeah, the podcast is super helpful for studying while you're doing other stuff, you know, while you're walking the dog or putting away the dishes or folding the laundry or whatever, driving in your car. A lot of students use it to review so that their commute time or drive time isn't wasted time. So I hope that that helps you. Okay. Any more tips for test anxiety? Hey, Amber, I have that whole podcast episode on test anxiety, and I'm going to do a live on test anxiety specifically coming up. And if you guys want to see the schedule for these videos, they're on the Sturdy Nursing website as events, and you can click that you're interested or that you're going, and then I think you get, you know, like a reminder like, hey, the event you're interested in is happening, so that you don't miss out. But yes, I'll be talking more in depth about test anxiety here, and then in the meantime, if you want to go check out the podcast, I'll link to the episode number. I want to say it's 82, but don't quote me on that. I might be lying about that completely. Microbiology, no, Priscilla, I don't have anything for microbiology. I just don't. I didn't save anything from that class. I guess that tells you how I felt about it. I liked it, but I just didn't love it. Okay, thank you so much to April. So if anybody has anything else, please put it in the comments. I'll see it on the Facebook. I'll see it later and I'll respond to you. And then you can email me or message me on there as well. So have a great, what day is it? Monday, you guys. I will link to the boot camp so that if you are interested, you don't miss out on the sale and that free electrolytes bundle that I want you guys to get, okay? And I'll see you back here tomorrow at 4, and we're going to talk about the 12 personality traits that make nursing students successful. And I'm not saying you have to have all 12, but I want you to recognize that you have some of them so that you feel really solid and confident going in. And you know what? If you have something you're like, yeah, that does sound useful, you can probably develop some of those things between now and the time school starts, okay? I know the semester's been hard, Amber. You're not alone in that. So I actually wrote, Amber, I don't know if you're listening to the podcast yet or not, but I have a pep talk episode, and you'll see that as well, and I'll link to that. So it's just me giving you a pep talk. You can listen to it and just pretend we're sitting down for a cup of coffee and a good cry and listen to that. And I think that it will help you, feel like you're not alone, and I totally understand, and I'm cheering for you, okay? All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, and we'll talk about those personality traits that make nursing students successful. It's going to take a little bit to get through it, so bring a snack and bring your questions, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay,